comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good evening, it's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong standing in for Patrick Christys. And breaking tonight...
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew?
Well, is it a new dawn for the monarchy? Prince Andrew has been stripped of all his titles and kicked out of the Royal Lodge. We shouldn't be calling him that now because he will be known as we go forward as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The King has acted decisively, but will it be enough to save the monarchy? And was this the hand of Prince William? Was the heir to the throne behind this? Also tonight, Rachel Reeves needs to face serious consequences. I'm going to tell the story of a landlord who has almost lost everything due to similar breaches of law.
Net zero by 2050 is impossible. It is making families poorer, energy bills more expensive.
Well, Boris Johnson has slammed the Tories, claiming they will suffer if they pivot away from green policy madness. And on my panel tonight, we've got broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Tory MP Alex Stafford and ex-Labour advisor Matthew Larzer. And in other royal news, has Prince Harry hit yet another low?
Most American sentence I could think of. I ordered breadsticks with ranch dressing at Applebee's.
Well, your Thursday evening is just getting started, but first, here are the headlines with Sam Francis.
Alex, thank you. Plenty more on that breaking news from the palace later tonight. First, though, a look at the other stories making the news. The estate agents used by Rachel Reeves to rent out her South London home have apologised for failing to obtain a required rental licence, blaming a staff resignation for the oversight. Harvey and Wheeler said a property manager had offered to apply for the licence on the Chancellor's behalf, but left the firm before doing so. In a letter to Sir Keir Starmer, Miss Reeves accepted full responsibility, saying it was ultimately her duty to ensure the licence was secured. Downing Street says the Prime Minister still has full confidence in the Chancellor after reviewing those emails, but the Conservatives insist the revelations raise fresh questions and are calling for a full investigation. Well, it's not just the row over that rent. Kemi Badenoch has also warned that Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in the next month's budget. At a pre-budget rally today, the Conservative leader accused Labour of breaking promises and delivering high taxes and out-of-control spending. It follows Sir Keir Starmer's refusal to repeat his pledge not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT. Fuelling speculation, major tax hikes could come to fill a £20 billion hole in the public finances. Labour, though, says the Conservatives have no credibility on the economy and insists it's focused on fixing the long-term damage caused and putting money back in people's pockets. Also tonight, a former Afghan asylum seeker who appeared in court has been accused of murdering a dog walker and stabbing two people he lived with in West London. 22-year-old Safi Dawood is charged with 1 count of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder. He's been remanded in custody after a brief hearing earlier this morning. Emergency services were called to Midhurst Gardens in Uxbridge on Monday evening to reports there of a triple stabbing where 49-year-old Wayne Broadhurst was killed while out walking his dog. Prosecutors say Dawood had been lodging with the other 2 victims, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy, both of whom remain in hospital tonight with serious injuries. The Prince and Princess of Wales have condemned what they described as grossly intrusive paparazzi photos taken of their children during a private skiing holiday in France. A court there ruled that the Paris Match magazine breached the family's privacy and image rights after publishing long-lens photos and personal details of their trip to the Alps in April. The article included shots of William, of Kate and their 3 children on the slopes without their consent. The court found the magazine had seriously violated their private life, siding with the couple in their legal action. The Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper is set to travel to the Middle East this week as the UK steps up calls to flood Gaza with aid amid a fragile ceasefire. The government's now announced a £4 million package for the United Nations Mine Action Service, funding to help clear 7,500 tonnes of unexploded munitions that are blocking key aid routes into the Strip. Speaking ahead of that trip, Ms Cooper said Gaza's situation is desperate, warning that relief won't come without clearing the explosives and pushing for lasting peace. The Foreign Office also says the clearance effort is vital to transition from the truce to the next phase of the US brokered peace plan. And President Donald Trump has announced plans to resume US nuclear weapons testing for the first time in more than 30 years. In a post on social media, he said the move was needed to keep pace with Russia and China, just hours before meeting President Xi Jinping in South Korea today. The US hasn't carried out a nuclear test since 1992, but Trump said the process will begin immediately, marking a major shift in US defence policy. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with a full roundup at 10. Now, though, it's over to Alex.
Well, massive breaking news from Buckingham Palace this evening. Of course, the King has stripped Prince Andrew of all his royal titles and kicked him out of Royal Lodge. In a statement released earlier this evening, Buckingham Palace said His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. The decision comes after weeks of mounting speculation, of course. Earlier this month, Andrew was stripped of his Duke of York title amid continued controversy over his links to the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and an alleged Chinese spy. In the past few minutes, the family of Virginia Giuffre have released a statement. They said, "Today, an ordinary American girl from an ordinary American family brought down a British prince with her truth and extraordinary courage." Her brother Sky Roberts and sister-in-law Amanda said Virginia Roberts Giuffre, our sister, a child when she was sexually assaulted by Andrew, never stopped fighting for accountability for what had happened to her and to countless other survivors like her. Today, she declares victory. We, her family, along with her surviving sisters, continue Virginia's battle and will not rest until the same accountability applies to all of the abusers and abettors connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It's understood that he will move to a property on a private Sandringham estate in Norfolk, which will be privately funded by the King. And GB News understands Sarah Ferguson will make her own arrangements and find her own home. Andrew's daughters, Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice, will retain their titles as they are daughters of a son of a sovereign. The King has acted decisively tonight amid increasing public murmurings about the future of the monarchy. Last week, the monarch was heckled during the scandal during a visit to Staffordshire.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew's trials? What do you think? Should the MPs be allowed to debate the royals in the House of Commons?
And this week, the politics magazine The New Statesman called for the abolition of the royal family on its front page. Meanwhile, Republic, the anti-monarchy campaign group, said it had instructed lawyers to investigate whether it could bring a private prosecution over allegations of sexual assault, corruption and misconduct in public office. So, has King Charles saved the monarchy tonight? Is this a new dawn for the British monarchy? Let's get the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and journalist Linda Jubilee, former Conservative MP Alex Stafford and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. Welcome, everybody. What an evening, hey? What an evening for breaking news. Linda, I'm very pleased you're here because you happen, amongst the many things you've done in your career, to have been a royal correspondent at some point, haven't you?
Many years ago.
Yes.
But I covered Sarah Ferguson in the early days and Prince Andrew. I've since met Sarah Ferguson at a private event. And that we have come to this does not surprise me. I think that the royal family and the royal household has known about many of these things for decades, presumably. So and understandably wanted to keep it quiet. I think that that Prince William is, if he's not exactly driving the bus here, I think he's a component part in the main strategy. I'm told that he did not want to live in close proximity to Andrew on the Windsor estate. That is why the move is to Sandringham. And if you think back a couple of weeks, you will remember that it was Prince William who said he did not want Prince Andrew to go to his coronation. Now, that implies he doesn't think the coronation's 2 decades away. It implies that the coronation might be much sooner than that, sadly. But, nevertheless, the implication is I do not want Andrew polluting my reign when I am king.
That is really what I've taken away from this. And having looked at Andrew's sort of ruthlessness, I mean, he has lived through very tumultuous periods of the royal family, hasn't he? With his own mother, of course, now his brother, breaking away from the royal family, and then Andrew, of course, throughout a very big period of his history. It seems to me that William's looking at this going, I'm having to inherit all of this at some point, and possibly some point quite soon. Harry and, of course, Andrew will be alive, what I would have thought given their ages, and perhaps we're talking maybe, sadly, that the coronation might not be as far away as many think it might be. Perhaps, of course, we're just speculating here. I hope the king is exceptionally well. But William just maybe wanting to get the house clean now.
Absolutely.
And stepping in for the...
And it's not just Virginia Giuffre's book, it's also Andrew Lowney's book, Entitlement, which came out several weeks ago now. But that talks about Andrew and his period as the UK trade envoy all over the world, combining so-called business trips at the taxpayer's expense with his golfing holidays and meeting contacts and networking at various embassies around the world to set up his own business interests, which are said to be quite fruitful, actually. It's interesting that the King will fund his wherever he lives on the Sandringham estate, but not Sarah Ferguson, I think. That's the rumour there. But
correct.
she has only just sold a £4 million house in Mayfair.
Oh, she's not going to be hard up.
She's not sort of a bobble to me.
You know, I have sympathy for people, but not for people who are multi-millionaires. I think she'll be fine. I think she'll be fine. Well, Alex, because this is the backdrop to this, is over the last week, we've seen Parliament talking about this, opposition days, Liberal Democrats, the SNP putting motions in. Has the King been forced to act, do you think? Has the household perhaps been forced to act because they do not want... The last thing any monarch wants is scrutiny in Parliament.
Well, exactly. And to go back to your question about is it going to save the royal family, I don't think the royal family is saving, but it is modernising. You've gone are the days where you can sort of put the disgraced uncle or aunt off to a corner and just ignore it. It's going to be on the spotlight. William, Charles, they know that this will constantly be a millstone around their neck. They need to deal with it decisively. You can't keep covering up. And I think if you look actually in the wider political discussions about child abuse, about abuse generally, the days of things being covered up or ignored, even if you go back 10 years ago, look what happened in Britain and Rotherham, things were ignored. You can't do that nowadays. That's good. You have to shine a light on it. And I think the monarchy is responding to that, realising they're not just dealing with one individual, they're dealing with the whole sea change in politics, in the media, and they realise if they want the monarchy to survive, and that is, after all, I think the number one goal of the royal family is to survive, they have to be a modern family dealing with the issues in their own stable. Except this went wrong, this was bad, but actually dealing with it. The days of cover-ups just are not going to wash it, and this is why I think Charles and William clearly are working together, because they want any future monarchies to be on a strong footing, a rightful footing. Because they can only survive as a royal family with public support. And luckily, public support has moved so far away from cover-ups, and they want this dealt with. The monarchy is actually at last embracing this change and saying, we will deal with our family.
And just to go back on the question of Fergie, GB News understands Fergie could live, Sarah Ferguson could live with Andrew if she chose to, but we understand she's going to do her own thing. Matthew, many people will ask the question, has the government had any hand in this? Because, of course, these are the sorts of things we find out well into the future. We will never know if ever, perhaps, these could be things that future generations might watch this show back and use it as historical record. Who knows? To say, you know, governments have hands in this, don't they? The monarchy and the government are intertwined. Of course, the government is the monarchs. They serve at the monarch, at least. Matthew, David Lammy is the Lord Chancellor. He is actually in charge of the titles that the King is asking to be given back, at least. Do you have any understanding of perhaps how the politicians might work with the royal family on this?
Well, I think the government will be mightily relieved tonight because I think you were about to see the spectacle of MPs, frankly, of all parties, expressing their right expressing their right to question and keep questioning until they got some answers. I think it's been clear over the last few weeks that the Parliament wasn't going to put up with just the removal, of the titles. That they wanted the prince they wanted the word prince off his name, and they've got that. And therefore, I think that the government was obviously, remember initially when Keir Starmer was asked, "Oh, do you think he should, do you think he should come before committee? Do you think he should be?" And it was all sort of doing the standard thing, which is to say nothing, which every government does in relation to the royal family. I think behind the scenes, I think they will have made clear to the palace that actually MPs were going to kick up a fuss and they couldn't control that.
I think what's interesting is that the palace has never, ever got ahead of the narrative on this story. Right from the get-go, they're always responding to public pressure and they're always doing too little, too late. They needed to be decisive in a much bigger way earlier on.
Do you think that's perhaps where I'm not saying the conflict, because I don't think there's conflict, but the difference between William and Charles might be? Because we've heard William is unhappy for a very long time about this situation. I would say predating the royal titles being stripped from a long
time. Yeah. Years before.
So maybe my assessment of it is that Andrew has been pushing, that William has been pushing for this for a very long time behind the scenes, and actually Charles has gone, actually, do you know what, now I might need to listen
Well, I think it fits in with what Alex was saying about, you know, William's strategy was he always said he wanted a more modern European-type monarchy. So he's been pushing for that all along, and this has been the big fly in the ointment.
However, the cynic in me also looks at the timing of this, because the palace would not have announced this without consulting with the government in some way or shape or form first. And the last couple of days have been terrible for Labour. Rachel Reeves is on the ropes, having day after day of budget speculation, and suddenly all the front pages, if I was a news editor now, all the front pages have been changed within the last couple of hours.
Funny you should say that. I mean, I had a lot to say to
Well, yeah, and it's like...
I'm sure Matthew...
You cynic, Alex,
I know.
I had a lot to say about Rachel Reeves tonight, but
I think you'll squeeze it in.
I'll find a way.
I'm not saying this wouldn't have happened, but I just think the timing is quite interesting as well. Why is it today? Because I think I read in the paper today that they were almost given a 4-week deadline. I think some of the committees in Parliament are talking about a four-week deadline, but the fact it's happened so quickly, one hand shows the decisiveness of it, the other hand shows maybe things have been moved forward. But,
I mean, I'm not cynical, but I think it's just driven by the head of steam getting so big.
That's what I think. I think it's not a question of someone else's, news agenda or some sort of conspiracy thing here. I think the fact of the matter is that public opinion was shifting so quickly that the announcement had to come.
I think it was the heckle. I think the heckle. I think the chap who heckled the king. That's quite hard to say. Really. I mean, if you were the king, you would think I've got to close this down now.
And also New Statesman and the polling out. That would not have been easy reading for the palace.
Absolutely.
Now it came out, the polling was yesterday or the day before. I mean, this is not what you want.
And sometimes, Alex, in communications, you get to a situation which I call sometimes bleeding out. It's just moving so quickly, you cannot get a bandage across it. You have to act.
Yeah, there's so much more I want to talk about in this story, because we can go back. I mean, there's rumours of a feud between Andrew and Catherine, of course, the future Queen. We've got, Jess Phillips, one of the most prominent ministers to speak out on this. And we were talking about this. We don't really hear politicians of ministerial level speaking out against anyone in the royal family. Public Accounts Committee. There's a lot to dig into here. So, of course, this story is not going anywhere this evening. I'm sure you appreciate it. But we do have other things we'd like to talk about with you, by the way, including Rachel Reeves. I will get there. I promise you, Matthew. I will.
Can't wait.
In the meantime, there's very little time left in our latest Great British giveaway, so make sure you don't miss out on your chance to become the winner of a brand new motorhome and 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
Lines close tomorrow and your chance to win big with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. The coming year could be your best yet, but hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, I'm going to get the inside story from royal scoop getter extraordinaire Charlotte Griffiths. She is the only authority on this topic. Is this, though, a new dawn for the monarchy? We'll find out in just a few minutes.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, and a massive recap on that. Breaking news from Buckingham Palace this evening. The King has stripped Prince Andrew of all his royal titles and kicked him out of the Royal Lodge. In a statement released earlier this evening, Buckingham Palace said His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. Well, to talk about this story, there's no one else I'd rather be talking to right now. It's Editor-at-Large, The Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Of course, huge story. We've been talking about this, you and I, a lot over the last few weeks, and we wondered whether they would ever get to taking away the Prince title from him. Many people are wondering whether the hand of Prince William here has been guiding this. What do you make of that?
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. I do think this has got Prince William written all over it. You and I were discussing on Sunday, weren't we? I had a story in the Mail on Sunday that the race was on to get Andrew out before William moves in to Windsor Great Park with Catherine. They're moving to a new house, Forest Lodge, and it's very, very close to the Royal Lodge. And apparently they wanted to move their kids in before November the 5th, i.e. over the half-term holidays, and get the kids all settled. And they absolutely did not want Andrew to be in place by the time they finally moved in. So the timing of this, I think, sort of adds up that that's exactly what's happened, that William has let this rumble on and on and on. And then finally he said, look, I'm taking matters into my own hands. This has got to stop. And the the letter that you just read out, the statement, is absolutely savage. You know, there's not one single kind word in there. It's just brutal. And to me, that does seem like Prince William is really taking the reins behind the scenes. And it does feel like a new dawn. I mean, you said it earlier, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that as well. It's a new dawn, really, because you know, Charles is a bit of a soft touch with his brother, and he has been shown to be. And that's understandable, by the way, because it is his own brother, and he's obviously not a good man in many, many ways. But it's hard to see that when you're so close, if you're King Charles. But Prince William, on the other hand, can be much more savage, much more brutal, and really draw a line under all these kind of wider circle royals. And I think he's just going to cut the lot of them off in the end, and it's just going to be the core family from now on.
Yeah, because Charlotte, of course, lots of whispers over the last few weeks about Prince William wanting this toxic-free reign. And if we are, of course, heavily speculating here that some sort of coronation of King William would be closer than we think it is. But, of course, if you are William and you're looking at your future management of the royal family, is this the kind of authority and ruthlessness that we should expect from a King William? Is this the sort of direction he's going to take the royal family in? And when I say that, I mean, I'm looking at Harry, I'm looking at Meghan. Do you think he will be brutal with royal titles, or do you think he's just going to be brutal in keeping the royal family very slim on their duties?
No, I think you're right. I think he's going to be brutal with titles as well. I'm absolutely fascinated that Andrew has been stripped of the Prince title, because I have to say, I know it's been speculated a lot, but I didn't think they'd actually go that far. I knew in the end that he'd lose Royal Lodge, but to actually strip him of the name he was born with, really, and that's something that Prince Harry's always said, you know, I'm always a prince, I was born a prince. I'm the son of a monarch. That can't be taken away from me. But what we learned tonight is, yes, that absolutely can be taken away from you. And not only that, but William is prepared to do it. And I really think, you know, should William be king in the near or distant future, I think one of the first things he will do is absolutely cut the rot. And that means Prince Harry first to go. You know, certainly HRH, he's already sort of lost that, possibly even Prince as well.
Wow, I mean, that would be quite a moment, wouldn't it? But I think it would... I mean, to me, this is the kind of authority I want to see the monarch have, because I do think the monarchy has become a bit too bloated. But at the same time, I look at fantastic royal figures out there that do so much good work. Is it going to be a purge of all purges? Are we just going to see, like, you know, it be George and Catherine and William and the immediate family that have these titles going forward? Do you think that's as far as he would go?
I do think it's as far as he would go. The safety with the Wales children is, of course, that he himself has brought them up, and so is Catherine. We know Catherine is a fantastic mother and a brilliant role model and a very good future queen. There's no doubt she's going to be an amazing queen. And she's also very steely and determined, especially since her cancer diagnosis. She's really matured into a very firm but fair woman. So she'll be a great co-leader of the firm with William. And I think the only people that will be spared is the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie and Edward. And I really don't think he's going to allow anyone else. I mean, Beatrice and Eugenie have absolutely no hope now of ever becoming working royal. That I've thought for a long time, at the beginning of Charles's reign, before his cancer diagnosis, and actually after Catherine's cancer diagnosis, there were signs that Charles might bring them in because he desperately needed more young glam for the royal family. But there's no way now. William, I mean, it's lucky they haven't lost their princess title, but then again, they can't be punished for the sins of the father. But, you know, I was surprised they made that point in the statement that they will retain their titles. But they will definitely never, ever work for the royal family because, you know, it's not really their fault, but there's always going to be this risk that somehow Andrew tries to find out information from them. It's not, you know, really no fault of their own, but they're just too close to Andrew. So other than, I think Edward and Sophie have a very good track record. I mean, Sophie had some indiscretions many, many years ago to do with her PR firm, but really they are very trusted. And Sophie's incredibly close with Catherine. But other than that, can't see anyone else really in the long-term royal family. I think it's going to be incredibly stripped back.
Yeah, many people will welcome that, I believe, and I think perhaps we do need a slimmed-down monarchy for it to survive and to modernise, and it's got to constantly evolve, as we've seen it do so many times, almost over its 1,000-year reign. I mean, 2066 will be 1,000 years of this particular lineage, at least. Can I ask you a question, Charlotte? Because I heard a lot of rumblings that there was a feud between William and Andrew, and maybe that's where it all started. Do you think that was a result of this Epstein scandal, or does something go back further than that?
Oh, definitely, it's the Epstein scandal. But there are so many aspects, actually, to his fallout with Prince William. One of them's as silly as there's a Wendy house on the Windsor estate, and apparently the Wales children wanted to use it a few years ago, and Andrew didn't let them. So there are lots of little moments like that where William has picked up on Andrew's absurd pomposity and, you know, throwing his weight around and just general sort of moments of unkindness and self-centeredness. And William's always abhorred that. Then there was something that was quite strange, which was at William's royal wedding, as far back as 2011, William didn't allow Princess Beatrice's boyfriend to come to the wedding, who Andrew was very fond of. He was called Dave Clark. So there was little rumblings there that obviously there was a lack of trust with the Yorks and their boyfriends and girlfriends. And then once I went to a roller disco, of all things, with Princess Catherine. She was just known as Kate back then, but she wasn't yet married. Anyway, Beatrice turned up to this party, and it was clear there was a feud between Beatrice and Kate, and they weren't really talking. Beatrice ended up crying. She hadn't been invited to this roller disco. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's just to make the point that all those years back, when they were much, much younger, there were sort of little rumblings that the Yorks and the Waleses just haven't always seen eye to eye over small things and obviously big things.
How important does public opinion play in the monarchy, Charlotte? Because we saw this big poll out the other day, which showed that negative views towards the monarchy hadn't gone up massively, but had become 4 points more negative, up to 36% of a negative favourability since August. Would things like this also, would the royal household evaluate them and say, do you know what, that's quite a big jump in the space of a couple of months, maybe we need to act?
Definitely. The royals 100% read their polls. Even Prince Harry over in California reads his opinion polls, which is why he's been working so hard in the last year to try and improve his reputation, with limited success, it has to be said. But of course they will have seen the correlation since August, and also this idea that now the Queen's died, what they really hoped was that Charles would bring in another era of stability, that somehow he could emulate the late Queen's obvious tremendous success. But there is this feeling that when the Queen died, as popular as Charles is, when the Queen died, that was, for a lot of people, that was sort of it for them. That was the monarchy kind of dying. And, the tragedy of Charles's reign is that it's been blighted by this cancer diagnosis, and he's tried to soldier on and work as much as he possibly can through it.
Yes.
But there's just this there's a lack of momentum there, and I think they want to somehow save themselves. And if a renewed vigour coming in from Prince William in the future will do it, then they'll do that.
Let's absolutely hope so. I'm very, very hopeful for King William's future reign, should I say. Editor-at-large there, Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, thank you so much for joining me and giving me all of your insights on this massive breaking story this evening. Thank you. Coming up, I'll be joined by GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker for all the latest on that breaking news on Andrew. But before that...
Net zero by 2050 is impossible. It is making families poorer, energy bills more expensive.
We take a little break from royal news and talk about former Prime Minister Boris Johnson unleashing an almighty attack on Kemi Badenoch for rowing back on his net zero pledges. He says the Tories will lose the next election if they keep bashing the green agenda. Is he hopelessly out of touch? I think he is. That's next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are looking to escape the very mixed weather across the UK, well, it's going to also be mixed across much of the Mediterranean. Not everywhere. We are going to see some fine weather on Friday through parts of Greece, particularly the Greek islands. But we've got this area of low pressure bringing some heavy rain to southern Italy, showers to northern Italy as well. Mostly fine to eastern Spain for now, but some wet and windy conditions across Portugal, and they spread east, albeit slowly, through the weekend and early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, it's going to be another blustery day, some quite heavy showers at times. Some of these could bring some hail and thunder. And even into this evening, it's going to remain fairly unsettled, all thanks to low pressure situated out to the west, bringing in some quite blustery winds and also some heavy outbreaks of rain. This will clear Northern Ireland through the first part of the evening and eventually spread its way eastwards overnight. Though it does clear fairly quickly, so by the time we reach the morning, it should be mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, though it is going to be quite blustery still by the time we reach the morning, but that does also keep temperatures up most towns and cities around the low double digits. So a milder start as we head into tomorrow, but I'm afraid it's not going to remain completely dry. There will be thicker areas of clouds starting to push up from the south, moving into the southeast. This will eventually bring in some showers. Some showery outbreaks already across western areas of Wales, also northwest England. These too could be quite heavy and blustery at times. A few more clearer skies across the far north of Scotland. And for all, it is set to be an unsettled end to the week. Some very heavy showers, in fact, eventually pushing into parts of Wales, parts of southwest England. These could bring some quite heavy and intense downpours at times, some hail and thunder, which could lead to a little bit of travel disruption. Also elsewhere, we can expect some heavy bands of showers too, possibly bringing some hail and thunder. And it's still going to be quite blustery, a chance we could see some coastal gales in some areas, but a milder day, so in any sheltered spots, feeling pleasant for the time of year, highs of 17 degrees. On Sunday, further showers. These too still could be quite heavy, particularly at times across northeastern areas of Scotland. Perhaps a little brighter by the afternoon across central and southern parts, still with a risk of showers, and it's still going to be quite blustery. And that remains the theme through Sunday and Monday, though from Monday onwards, things should start to feel that little bit milder.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, and we will be returning to that breaking news from Buckingham Palace with GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker very soon. But first, Boris Johnson. At least back, he doesn't seem to go away, does he? He's unleashed an almighty attack on Tory leader Kemi Badenoch, warning the party will lose the next election if they keep bashing the green agenda. Well, when he was Prime Minister, Johnson set ambitious net zero goals and hosted the COP26 summit in Glasgow 4 years ago. But since then, current Tory leader Kemi Badenoch has committed to repeal the Climate Change Act and abandon the commitment to reach net zero by 2050, arguing the target threatens to bankrupt Britain. But speaking to the Smart Society Show podcast, Johnson said this: "Certainly, in my party, it's all about bashing the green agenda, and I personally don't think we'll get elected on that. I don't see us soaring in the polls as a result of saying what rubbish net zero is. I didn't see a massive leap in support for the Conservatives." Well, to talk about this, I'm joined now by former Tory MP Alex Stafford. Alex, you have worked... Just remind us, was PPS to Boris Johnson?
Yes, I was PPS to Boris Johnson and PPS to Kemi Badenoch as well, to both of them, one after the other. I think what Boris is trying to say, he doesn't like the fact he spent so much of his political capital when he was leader on the green agenda, going for growth for green agenda, and the Conservatives turning away from that. But I also think the economic situation has changed massively from when Boris became Prime Minister in 2019. The economy is a mess. I don't think we can afford quite a lot of these initiatives. And all the promises that were made by Boris and actually he wanted to invest in, were the green growth, the green jobs, they haven't materialised. I would actually say what Labour are doing when they're covering our fields with solar panels and things like that, there's not actually giving jobs to British people. So I think actually Labour have taken Boris's net zero dream, I say dream, you can make that what you will, and actually sort of turn into a sort of a weird way of it. And Kemi's actually saying, look, this isn't working, we need to have a proper look at the economy, look at jobs, and actually the most important thing to everyone is jobs and the pound in their pockets. And I think we've got to bear that in mind. We all know the budget's in less than a month's time. People talking about 2p income tax rise. It's going to be diabolical for Britain. Yeah, and we can't afford some of this stuff anymore.
Yeah, and I think my opinion on Boris Johnson has changed. I was a huge fan. I think many people were. I mean, he won a landslide general election. I was hoping he was going to be this conservative leader. I don't think he was very conservative. That was the problem I had with Boris Johnson. I think he was very liberal. And net zero and the green agenda was one of my big criticisms of Boris Johnson. He couldn't let it go. He's obviously positioned himself as this green leader. David Cameron started that all off, didn't he? Yeah, but I think he's just chopped down that silly tree you've got as a logo now and go back to the good old days.
Well, the torch and stuff. That was a great logo.
Torch of liberty.
But I think what we've got to remember when Boris was talking about the green agenda, he always linked the green agenda with levelling up. And his message was, and I was behind it very much so, was that actually we need to invest in areas like mine, Rother Valley, which have been neglected, left behind. We need to have new jobs. And how to get the new jobs? You can't just magic them from thin air. You have to invest in new technologies. So his vision, I think, was very much about new technology. But clearly that hasn't happened. It's not happened, and so it's not worked.
Well, Alex, is it not the point that he's just so easily sold on things? I mean, we saw him flip-flop on Brexit. One minute he was anti-Brexit, then when he was for it, then he became actually for Brexit. Got some of it done. Well, I don't think he did the best deal, but he got some of it done. He was given credit for that. But when it comes to green stuff, someone just spoken in his ear and gone, this is great for the economy. Boris has gone, great idea, let's do it, you know? He doesn't seem to have shifted with the narrative of the country.
I think you're right about that. He hasn't shifted. The country, the economy is in such a different place than it was even after COVID, straight after COVID. And I don't think he maybe has realised how bad things are on the ground and how bad people are being punished with it. And also what Labour are doing, pushing their version of the green agenda, like destroying our farmlands with solar panels, things which he would never have even contemplated. But that's happening. I think Kemi is actually taking a refreshing look and saying, look, we can't afford this. The country doesn't want this. We need to go back to basics. It's not anti-environment, but it's actually pro-economy, pro-good growth. And fundamentally, I think what Boris had when he was elected, it was about growth. And what Kemi is looking at now is about growth of the economy. It's just a different way of doing it and different priorities. And I think at the moment, we need to get our economy back on track.
Do you think he's a bit of a spectre over the Conservative Party? Because, you know, he is a very big name, a household name. Kemi Badenoch is not a household name, I would argue, at the moment. Do you think things like this are quite damaging for the Conservative Party when he says this?
No, I don't think they're damaging. If anything, I think they highlight how the Conservative Party has changed under Kemi and actually how relevant Kemi is. If Kemi wasn't relevant, Boris wouldn't be talking about her.
There's still only 16% of the polls at the moment. I mean, what's got to give? How much more relevant does she be?
We're going up, and I think after her conference speech a few weeks ago, no bounce, but the public opinion has changed. I was being approached by one of the parents at my children's school who saw this, be like, wow, this is great. People are starting to look at the Conservatives again, seriously, and I think she is doing that. Don't get me wrong, we're still a long way behind and we've got a long journey to go. But the fact Boris is talking about this, other people are commentating it, the fact it's on your news headlines today, I think we're getting there, slowly. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint.
All right, Alex Stafford, former Tory MP, and PBS to Boris Johnson, PBS to Kemi Badenoch. Thank you very much for joining me. What a better guest than that, hey? All right, coming up, I'll be joined by GB News royal correspondent, no one better to talk to about this, Cameron Walker, for all the latest on that Andrew story. But first, there are fears tonight that we could be on the brink of a new Cold War after President Trump ordered the Pentagon to start testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 30 years. Should we all be worried? We'll find out in just a few minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
News channel.
I
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Of course, we will be talking about that breaking news about Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor, with GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker very soon. But before that, there are fears tonight that we could be on the brink of another Cold War after President Trump today ordered the Pentagon to immediately start testing nuclear weapons again for the first time in 30 years. Well, over the weekend, Russia announced that it had successfully tested 2 new weapons capable of carrying nuclear warheads. These included a missile which the Kremlin said could penetrate US defense systems and an underwater drone called Poseidon, capable of hitting the American West Coast and triggering radioactive ocean swell. Sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Well, I'm now joined by Senior Fellow at the Foreign Policy Institute at Johns Hopkins University, Geoffrey Price. Geoffrey, appreciate you joining me this evening. This is quite worrying. Many people at home will remember the Cold War and how worrisome it was to be around when we literally had nukes all pointed at each other. I'm not saying much has changed since then, because I think we all do still point nukes at each other. But the interesting part on this, Geoffrey, where I want to dig in, is Trump has just come back from meeting Xi Jinping. Has something spooked him?
So good evening, Alex. So I think you're right. He's not talking about underground nuclear explosive testing, because neither China nor Russia has done that in 30 years. What I think he's reacting to is President Putin announcing these 2 exotic delivery system tests. And what I think Putin is doing is basically saber rattling because he's just suffered a major setback in Ukraine. And he tried the same old sort of Kremlin playbook of offering a summit to try and derail tomahawks to Ukraine, and that backfired. He got no summit, and now he's going to face sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil. So Putin is hurting, and I think what he's doing is a nuclear saber rattling, probably to save face at home, and President Trump is reacting in the moment. But you know, on an equal basis, Russia has some weird kind of James Bond villain type weapons that we don't have, we don't need, and frankly, I don't think we want.
Indeed, because, I mean, the reason why I bring up China is that China is the country growing its nuclear arsenal the fastest in the world. I think they're up 20% over the last year alone. So I do wonder, after meeting Xi Jinping, I don't know whether he takes Putin that seriously anymore. He called this meeting here the G2 on his Truth Social. Should we read into his China's nuclear ambitions, perhaps?
Absolutely. Look. He's not right that we have the largest nuclear arsenal. Russia has the largest arsenal, about the same as ours. China has had a much smaller arsenal, but they are growing it very, very quickly. And they have the industrial capability, the economic capability to do there. So yeah, in a matter of years, China could well be a nuclear power on the same level as Russia or the United States. And that does have very serious strategic implications.
And with America starting this testing, are we fearful that the Cold War could start again, Jeffrey? Because that is the concern being floated around today, particularly on social media and other places. People feel like the ante is really upped at the moment.
I mean, frankly, I think we're already in a sort of a second Cold War with Russia. If you look at what the Russians are doing as far as invading or violating NATO airspace, what they're doing in Ukraine, so the competition is already there. The question is, can we keep a lid on the nuclear arsenals? And I think President Trump would like to do that. He's talking about extending the New START treaty. The question is, that was designed for a 2 nuclear power world. And as you say, we're looking at a 3 nuclear power world, which makes the mathematics a lot more complicated.
It certainly does. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeffrey Price, their Senior Fellow at the Foreign Policy Institute at Johns Hopkins University. Look, I do really think this is a worrisome development. I mean, we have got a world that is teetering on war. We're not just talking about China and Russia. We've got India and Pakistan. We've got so many places this could really pick up. Now, I really want to know your thoughts about this breaking story on Prince Andrew. Formerly, should I say, Prince Andrew. He's now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, isn't he? Let me know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. I'll try and read some of your comments tonight if I can get to them during the show this evening, because I'm really intrigued to see what you, the public at home, think. And coming up at 10 p.m, of course, I'll be joined by GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker for all the latest on the breaking news out of Buckingham Palace. But Prince Andrew, of course, has been stripped of all those titles. I'm really interested in this. And on top of that, we're also going to be talking about Rachel Reeves. Now, I had so much to say. I had so much to say about this tonight. I know Matthew Lanza, who is a guest on our show tonight, is very relieved that I won't have this big monologue to give you, because I think there's more than meets the eye here. And I'd like to talk about some of it in the next part of the show. So please come and join me. We'll be back very shortly. Don't go anywhere, because we've got loads of news, including all of your front pages lined up for you in just a few minutes.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, it's going to be another blustery day, some quite heavy showers at times. Some of these could bring some hail and thunder. And even into this evening, it's going to remain fairly unsettled, all thanks to low pressure situated out to the west, bringing in some quite blustery winds and also some heavy outbreaks of rain. This will clear Northern Ireland through the first part of the evening and eventually spread its way eastwards overnight, though it does clear fairly quickly. So by the time we reach the morning, it should be mostly dry, plenty of clear skies, though it is going to be quite blustery still by the time we reach the morning, but that does also keep temperatures up, most towns and cities around the low double digits. So a milder start as we head into tomorrow, but I'm afraid it's not going to remain completely dry. There will be thicker areas of clouds starting to push up from the south, moving into the southeast. This will eventually bring in some showers. Some showery outbreaks already across western areas of Wales, also northwest England. These too could be quite heavy and blustery at times. A few more clearer skies across the far north of Scotland. And for all, it is set to be an unsettled end to the week. Some very heavy showers, in fact, eventually pushing into parts of Wales, parts of southwest England. These could bring some quite heavy and intense downpours at times, some hail and thunder, which could lead to a little bit of travel disruption. Also elsewhere, we can expect some heavy bands of showers too, possibly bringing some hail and thunder. And it's still going to be quite blustery, a chance we could see some coastal gales in some areas, but a milder day, so in any sheltered spots, feeling pleasant for the time of year, highs of 17 degrees. On Sunday, further showers. These too still could be quite heavy, particularly at times across northeastern areas of Scotland. Perhaps a little brighter by the afternoon across central and southern parts, still with a risk of showers, and it's still going to be quite blustery. And that remains the theme through Sunday and Monday, though from Monday onwards, things should start to feel that little bit milder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps four, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Good evening, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong in for Patrick Christys. And breaking tonight...
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew?
Well, is it a new dawn for the monarchy? Prince Andrew has been stripped of all his titles and kicked out of Royal Lodge. He will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The King has acted decisively, but will it be enough to save the monarchy? And was this the hand of Prince William? Was the heir to the throne behind all of this? Also, Rachel Reeves needs to face serious consequences, as I'm going to tell the story of a landlord who has almost lost everything due to similar breaches of law. On top of all of that, I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panel tonight, because we've got broadcaster and journalist Linda Jubilee, former Tory MP Alex Stafford, and ex-Labour advisor Matthew Larzer. And has Prince Harry hit yet another low?
Most American sentence I could think of. I ordered breadsticks with ranch dressing at Applebee's.
Your Thursday evening is just getting started, but let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis first.
Very good evening to you. Just coming up to 2 minutes past 10. Plenty more, of course, on that breaking news regarding Prince Andrew. First, though, a look at the other stories tonight. The letting agent used by Chancellor Rachel Reeves has apologised for an oversight which left her South London home without the correct rental licence. Harvey and Wheeler said staff members who'd offered to apply for a licence resigned before doing so, leaving the application incomplete. Miss Reeves has again apologised, saying she takes full responsibility for the mistake. Downing Street insists Sir Keir Starmer still has full confidence in her, despite growing scrutiny from the government's ethics advisor. But the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says the Prime Minister must grow a backbone and order a full investigation. Well, that comes as Kemi Badenoch has also warned that Rachel Reeves should be sacked if she raises taxes in next month's budget. At a pre-budget rally today, the Conservative leader accused Labour of breaking promises and delivering high taxes and out-of-control spending. It follows Sir Keir Starmer's refusal to repeat his pledge not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT, fuelling speculation of major tax hikes to fill a now £20 billion hole in the public finances. Labour says the Conservatives, though, have no credibility on the economy and insist it's focused on fixing the long-term damage caused and putting money back in people's pockets. A former Afghan asylum seeker has appeared in court today accused of murdering a dog walker and stabbing 2 people he lived with in West London. 22-year-old Safi Dawood is charged with 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. He's been remanded in custody after a brief hearing this morning. Emergency services were called to Midhurst Gardens in Uxbridge on Monday to reports there of a triple stabbing. Prosecutors say Dawood had been lodging with the 2 other victims in the attack, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy, both of whom remain in hospital tonight. The Prince and Princess of Wales have condemned what they described as grossly intrusive paparazzi photos taken of their children during a private skiing holiday in France in April. A French court ruled the Paris Match magazine breached the family's privacy and image rights after publishing long-lens photos of that personal trip to the Alps. The article included shots of William, of Kate and their 3 children on the slopes taken without consent. The court found that the magazine had seriously violated their private life, siding with the couple in their legal action. The Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper is set to travel to the Middle East this week as the UK is stepping up calls to flood Gaza with aid amid a fragile ceasefire there. The government's announced a £4 million package for the United Nations Mine Action Service, funding that will help clear 7,500 tonnes of unexploded munitions that are blocking key aid routes into the Strip. Speaking ahead of her trip, Ms Cooper said Gaza's situation is desperate and warned that relief won't come without clearing the explosives and pushing for a lasting peace. The Foreign Office says the clearance efforts are vital to transition from the truce to the second phase of the US brokered peace plan. And the UK government has chartered emergency flights to help British nationals leave Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa tore across the Caribbean. Up to 8,000 Britons are believed to be on the island, now reeling from one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes in history. Tourists have been ordered to stay indoors, with many still locked down in hotels as Jamaica continues to recover from widespread devastation. The Foreign Office says the flights will help those unable to return home commercially, while efforts continue to restore regular services for holidaymakers still stranded. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back for one more roundup at 11.
Well, enormous, breaking news from Buckingham Palace this evening. The King has stripped Prince Andrew of all his royal titles and kicked him out of Royal Lodge. In a statement released earlier this evening, Buckingham Palace said His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. The decision comes after weeks of mounting speculation. Earlier this month, of course, Andrew was stripped of his Duke of York title amid continued controversy linking him to convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and an alleged Chinese spy. And in the past hour, the family of Virginia Giuffre have released a statement. They said, "Today, an ordinary American girl from an ordinary American family brought down a British prince with her truth and extraordinary courage," say her brother Sky Roberts and sister-in-law Amanda. Virginia Roberts Giuffre, our sister, a child when she was sexually assaulted by Andrew, never stopped fighting for accountability for what happened to her and to countless other survivors like her. Today, she declares victory. We, her family, along with her surviving sisters, continued Virginia Giuffre's battle and will not rest until the same accountability applies to all of the abusers and abettors connected with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It's understood that he will move, Andrew that is, to a property on private Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, which will be privately funded by the King. GB News understands Sarah Ferguson will make her own arrangements and find her own home. Andrew's daughters, Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice, will retain their titles as they are the daughters of the son of a sovereign. The King has acted decisively tonight amid increasing public murmurings about the future of the monarchy. And last week, the monarch was heckled, of course, over the scandal during a visit to Staffordshire.
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew? Have you asked the police to cover up for Andrew's Charles? What do you think? Should the MPs be allowed to debate the royals in the House of Commons?
And this week, the politics magazine The New Statesman called for the abolition of the royal family on its front page. Meanwhile, Republic, the anti-monarchy campaign group, said it had instructed lawyers to investigate whether it could bring a private prosecution over allegations of sexual assault, corruption and misconduct in office. And I think Prince William is going to be an extraordinary king for this country, a king we need to bring Britain back together, to actually have the authority to rule with such vigour and energy and to slim down and modernise the monarchy. So, besides that, has King Charles saved the monarchy tonight? Let's get the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and journalist Linda Jubilee, former Conservative MP Alex Stafford and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. Well, we're going to go back to what we were talking about earlier because, of course, this is a huge story, Matthew. But politicians haven't exactly completely kept out of this, have they? Jess Phillips comes to mind. She is the most senior politician I can find who has made open statements about this. If I could just find it here, because I do have it somewhere around here. Jess Phillips said the royal family can't pick and choose accountability, taxpayers fund this mess, and Parliament must step in if Charles won't. It's quite unprecedented from a minister to make that statement.
Yes, absolutely, but I think we'd all agree with it. I mean, I think the issue is, as we were discussing earlier, with all the revelations that we've seen about what what Andrew was doing, even out with Epstein. You know, I mean, when he was Air Miles Andy, when he was going around the world at the taxpayers' expense, nobody was allowed to say anything because, of course, you know, you could call him Air Miles Andy. You could take the mickey a little bit, but you couldn't criticise, you know, the fact that he was the very fact that he was doing it because of this kind of political truce where nobody ever says anything about the royal family. Anybody who does put their head above the parapet normally gets it shot down. I think after this, there's no going back. I think what we've done, I think for Parliament itself, which actually has had quite a good few weeks because by even the threat of using its powers of investigation has actually strengthened its role. It's meant to hold the executive to account, but it's also meant to hold the ultimate power in the country, which is the royal family, to account.
And the leader of the Lib Dems was due to hold a debate, wasn't he? And it was in 1 or 2 weeks' time. I think it was tabled to all appear. And that was just waiting for the storm to break. I mean, there was no point in waiting for that to start.
Absolutely. They wanted to get it in before that.
Because, Linda, I'm really interested in this. In your memory, because, of course, you were a royal correspondent at some point in time, in your memory, has there ever been a moment in time that you can remember, because I can't, where Parliament has gone as far to have a debate about a member of the royal family, or at least push for one, or get this involved in the family's own dealings?
Not that I can remember. I mean, the two are entirely separate. If you go back historically to the time of Edward VIII, this country didn't even know what was going on in that relationship. I mean, he had an entire relationship where he was virtually married to Wallis Simpson, and the foreign press, the European press, were reporting every cough, spit and comma of this relationship, and people in this country knew absolutely nothing. And that kind of set the tone, and I think now that Matthew, with his remark just then, this is a watershed moment. This is the time things will change, I think.
But I'm not necessarily for the better. I think we all agree around here that it's right what's happened to Andrew. But I think it opens up the floodgates of getting the politicians, as a former politician myself, involved with the royal family. And once you start questioning that, once you start politicians start bringing their opinions, their political opinions on the royal family, I think it suddenly undermines a bit of our constitutional monarchy, because the monarchy has to be separate from politics. It can't be around for the fads and trends of politicians. And I think if we start putting politicians in that, you're diminishing the role of the monarchy and what makes it special in this country, i.e. set apart. I think, obviously, such a horrific case like Andrew, yes, of course, that needed to be dealt with, and I'm glad that the King, or William perhaps, has stepped in. I think that is where the monarchy works. They don't need to have politicians to deal with something bad like this.
I think that you've made some really, really valid points, but I think one of the damaging things here now is you've shone this spotlight right on the royal family, and part of their pulling power with the public, if you'd like to describe it that way, is the mystique that surrounds it. But I think now there is no mystique left. There is no corner of the royal family that has survived this.
Well, I think is that not just a part of our society now? I mean, none of us have privacy anymore.
I agree.
We gave it up a long time ago, and I think this is just playing itself out.
I remember being at a garden party at Buckingham Palace, and
all your posh showing
off. Only once. I've only been once, and I think that the Queen was walking past with Prince Philip, and she said something to him. She said, "Has everyone here got mobile phones except me?" And it's true that you're not allowed to take photographs there. Everyone sneaks a few off, but you cannot avoid the speculation, the stories. It all goes out on social media. There's no
but in a weird way, partly because the tabloid press is not what it was in the 80s, 90s, and before. In a weird way, what I think that was freaking the royal family out was they'd obviously, after the Queen, the King has perhaps captured the public's heart more than expected. What you've actually seen now is we don't have revelations about was it Fergie and her toe sucking back in the day, or the Diana Charles thing, you know, which when I was growing up was every Sunday there was another revelation from one side or the other. So actually you've seen that all come, and this was the one black spot, as it were, and therefore, you know, I think that the heckler, who will go down in history, I think, kind of summed it up. They wanted a smaller, cleaner, simpler royal family, and this was the prevention to that.
Alex, I'd like to ask you this, because is this Prince William here? Now, we talk about him a lot, and we do know, of course, very, very sadly, the King is sick. He has cancer. And, of course, this is increasing speculation about how long the King's reign will be, and whether or not now William is steering the royal family into a direction when he takes over, he can have a toxic-free reign, which is what's been quoted in the press.
I think exactly right. We've got to see the the number one raison d'etre for the royal family is to make sure that it goes on. William does not want to be the last king. He needs to make sure that the royal family is bulletproof. Get rid of the bad eggs, slim down the monarchy, make it relevant for Britain. Gone are the days where you could send Andrew off to some sort of random Caribbean island to be on the Governor General. And
Which is what they did with Edward VIII.
And that probably would have happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. We haven't got any Caribbean islands left. Thanks, Tom, we're getting the Chagos Islands. That could have been perfect. But you can't do that. And I think clearly William wants a smaller royal family. We have this vast royal family. He realised you only need a few working royals. Most people in this country don't know who the vast majority of royals are. We don't need so many royals because frankly, the healthcare is a lot better. You don't need this extended mystique family. You just need a core group of people which can be tightly controlled by the firm to make sure they don't have lines.
Prince and Princess of Wales. You've got the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. That's quite a tight four-person team. That would be absolutely fine. There's no need for any more people to be.
Well, just not in a too distant future. Of course, the Waleses, the young children, will have grown up.
They'll have grown a bit older.
They would have had these three more working royals. Can I ask you this, because I had Charlotte Griffiths on who I think is absolutely brilliant on this stuff.
Yeah.
Editor-at-large at the Sunday Mail. She said that this could be a signal for Harry and Meghan. She believes that, and many others believe this, by the way, that actually this is now going to set a precedent. William is going to be ruthless. He is going to strip titles away from many royals.
I don't think he needs to strip titles from Harry and Meghan, whatever they're left with. I'm not quite sure.
HRH, I think it is, dukedoms.
I don't think he needs to do that. But will he allow them back in? Will he allow more proximity for them, which is what Harry has said he wants? I think he might balk at that.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, Matthew, because if Harry and Meghan can go around using the Prince and Princess title, the HRH title, the Duke title, and something embroils them in a scandal, well, the royal household is then embroiled in a scandal, and they are at arm's length from the royal family.
I think it'll be a warning to them that they need to behave themselves. Otherwise, they could be next on the hit list.
And they'll stay at arm's length.
Absolutely. So I think you may find we've seen Harry's obviously had a better few months in terms of relations with the family and also relations with the British public than before. I think it's clear that they can't just be sat in Montecito and be throwing stones at Windsor Castle. Otherwise, they might not have many. They might be playing old Harry and Meghan Windsor Mountbatten again. So I want to know what's going to happen at Christmas, though.
Oh, yes, that's.
I was thinking about this over the last hour.
Will they come up? Oh, Saturday.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen to Andrew on Christmas Day? Is he going to be on his own with a ready meal?
They're going to have to put him in the kitchen or something.
Yes.
I don't know, because he cannot come out to church with the rest of them.
But I don't think Santa's going to visit him this year anyway.
No,
or leave a lump of coal in his stocking.
I do think Prince William's going to get a lot of gifts this year for some reason. I think he might be piling them up, so to speak. I guess maybe the last sort of thing here, because Royal Lodge is one thing that's really stuck with the public. It's because he's got beautiful property. It's an estate, isn't it, really? On this beautiful
30-bedroom mansion, you know, that is so beautiful. And, of course, it has stuck into the public consciousness because, you know, we're out there with kids, you know, and trying to get on the property ladder, you know, some of them trying to find big deposits for rental properties, who are just trying to build a life, find a life. And he is in a 30-room mansion on the estate, the royal estate. Of course it resonated with the public.
Well, I want to bring in now GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Cameron, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Cameron, is this a crisis for the royal family, or is this a new dawn?
Well, Alex, I think it was certainly getting to crisis stage, and I think that is why the King has taken such drastic action this evening. I don't think there's been a situation in living memory, really, where we have seen a sovereign take such a kind of harsh, perhaps some people would say, approach to his brother, Prince Andrew. But I think he had no choice, didn't he? Because Prince Andrew had not only been accused of course, having sex with a 17-year-old girl on 3 separate occasions, allegations he, of course, denies, but he has continued links to Jeffrey Epstein. We then, of course, had the problem with Royal Lodge, that lease agreement where he appears to have been paying peppercorn rent for the last 20 years at the expense of British taxpayers. And then the Parliamentary Committee started to probe into that lease agreement with the Crown Estate. And the Crown Estate, of course, has a number of properties on offer around the country. And could that have potentially opened Pandora's box when it comes to other members of the royal family or other courtiers or other grace and favour pads associated with the royal family? So I think that's why the King has decided to nip this in the bud in quite such a drastic way to remove not only the Duke of York title formally with his prerogative powers as sovereign, but the Prince title, which it just hasn't happened in more than 100 years. I think the last time anything similar to this happened was at the start of World War I. But I also think, Alex, and this is a really important point, the fact that he's being moved to a property on the Sandringham estate is highly significant, because the Sandringham estate, of course, is owned by the Mountbatten-Windsor family privately, rather than anything to do with the Crown, as in the sovereign, or indeed the British state. And that, of course, means that no British taxpayer is going to be losing out on housing Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor in a property. It's all going to be funded by the King. And what's also significant, I think, in that statement, the King and the Queen made a point of expressing sympathy with the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the victims of sex trafficking, something that Prince Andrew has been given the opportunity to say on a number of occasions and has chosen not to.
Yeah, indeed. Very, very interesting stuff, Cameron. Can I just briefly ask you, do you think this is going to be enough? Is this going to be enough to appease the public, who have become very incensed on this topic, and rightfully so? Do you think now this will all start to die away as Andrew, of course, goes into what is essentially an exile?
Well, Alex, yeah, I mean, it certainly is an exile. And I think that is the gamble that the royal household has taken this evening. Clearly, 2 weeks ago, just saying Prince Andrew is no longer going to be using his HRH title was not enough. And the opinion polls, I think, spoke volumes, particularly today. 91% of the latest YouGov poll, the British public have an unfavourable view of Prince Andrew. But not only that, the fact that Parliament was starting to probe, the fact that members of Parliament were starting to probe into this issue via a parliamentary committee becomes a bit of a constitutional problem for King Charles. So that is what he's hoping for. I think he's shown a lot of strength tonight. I don't think we would have seen Queen Elizabeth II do this. To be honest, I think a lot of people were doubting whether King Charles was going to do this. I think a lot of people were thinking this was going to be up to the future King William V to do. But King Charles really has taken decisive action tonight as he continues with cancer treatment, as Prince William is about to embark on his first official visit to Brazil. And of course, from speaking to sources close to William, it was pretty clear they're very angry that this Andrew problem was still hanging over just days before Prince William goes to Brazil, which clearly would have overshadowed the whole thing. So I think they're all hoping it's nipped in the bud. But to be honest, I think it's going to be days before we find out whether it's been enough.
Brilliant stuff there. Cameron Walker, GB News royal correspondent. Thank you so much for giving us those insights there. And of course, we'll be talking more about this throughout the show. I wonder, and I know you're all thinking, the front pages, I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think they're going to be everywhere. But until we get to them, which will be very shortly, there's very little time left in our latest Great British giveaway. So make sure you don't miss the chance to become our biggest winner of the year with a brand new motorhome and 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
Lines close tomorrow and your chance to win big, with a prize worth over £104,000. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. Worth over £74,000, this luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. The coming year could be your best yet, but hurry, get your entry in now. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16, PO Box 8690, Derby, DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. I wonder who might need a new motorhome anyway. Coming up, I'll have all of tomorrow's front pages hot off the press. But before that, fresh emails have raised major questions about the Chancellor Rachel Reeves's excuses for not having a rental licence. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this one. I'll reveal all in just a few minutes.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
But I saw in that incredible ancient ceremony how it and our traditions held the country together. It wasn't just the proclamation at St James's Palace, it was the wave of them that then spread around the country. It involved all of us, it reminded us who we were, and it galvanised support for the new king. And I thought, this is just incredible. And then I started to think about, actually, all of these things have been arrived at, and our amazing uncodified constitution, which is written down, but in about 400 different places, it's all held together by these rituals and these ceremonies and customs. And even our law is devised that way. And actually, the conclusion I came to is that these things are really important. I think we don't really recognise, we like them, but we don't really recognise how fundamental they are to our reliability, our dependability as a nation, and our ability to cope with change. They celebrate service and duty. They celebrate sacrifice. They are based around, I would say, the values of the nation. And most of them, in fact, I think all of them, are funded not by the public sector. It's not local authority grants doing this, it's local traders. In terms of the local traditions and customs, the madder the better, as far as they're concerned. And I think this points to another element, that the absurd and our sense of humour. It's the only thing we take really seriously in this country. So I think that is fine. But I think we do adapt these traditions. They do modernise.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Now, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages will be coming hot off the press very shortly. I can only imagine there's one thing dominating almost all of them, but we'll find out together. But first, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, thinks her housing scandal is over, but I think serious questions remain, and I'm going to run through them. Now, Downing Street has now released emails and letters claiming the blame for her missing housing licence lies with the estate agency. One letter states this: "Yesterday I wrote that we were unaware a licence was needed. Today the letting agency confirmed on the 17th of July 2024 that they had told my husband a selective licence was required and agreed to apply for it, but didn't partly due to staff leaving." Hang on. Reeves' own letter to the Prime Minister said they didn't know a licence was necessary and didn't get one. The agent offered to apply for it, so presumably she or her husband knew about the requirement. So many will be asking the question, why weren't these questions raised? On top of all of this, reports suggest, of course, the Chancellor will be raising the basic income tax rate by 2p, a manifesto pledge break after last year's disastrous budget. So, with a looming scandal and another broken pledge, you just get it over with and resign now. Of course, I'm joined by my panel as usual here. Tonight, Matthew, will start with you as the Labour man on the panel. See, listen, it is odd The two letters conflict themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we're now in this slightly extraordinary position that the actual facts seem to, you know, I think people would have reasonable sympathy for the fact that the estate agent has said quite clearly that he didn't do it. But that this sort of, it's the explanation before those facts were known that is now the question mark rather than the facts themselves. Look, this is clearly damaging. Even with the explanation that the estate agent has provided, she should have done it.
Yeah, Alex, I'll go straight to you because, listen, at the end of the day, the moral high ground that Labour occupied before they won the general election was tremendous. I mean, they wanted Boris Johnson to resign over a cake, and of course those were special times with COVID lockdowns, but they were selective rules, different rules for different places. You could sort of apply this with the licensing housing stuff. It's selective rules, different places, but there was no excuse for Boris, was there? They called for him to resign.
Well, I think you're right. The hypocrisy of this and so many other scandals the last year or so has been outstanding by Labour. Scandal after scandal after scandal. It is the hypocrisy that they keep going back. And even, as we just discussed, what Rachel Reeves said yesterday is very different from what she said today. You cannot have a change of mind. It's never always the crime, almost. It's the lies, it's the cover-up, which will get her. And I think this is an absolute disgrace. Now, frankly, a cynic in me would say that almost setting Rachel Reeves up to be chucked out after the budget. So she'll deliver a disastrous budget, 2p or more or whatever on income tax, and then next day, Keir Starmer will say now, oh, a new inquiry or something says you have to go, Rachel, because of this. Not the fact that she's an incompetent chancellor, but because of this scandal, and therefore she will take all the blame for a disastrous Labour budget. And I just think it's the hypocrisy, it's the politics, it's the games, and again and again. If this was a Tory MP or a Tory minister, this would be constant front page on every newspaper, and Labour will be hounding them out of a job.
Yeah.
But because it's Rachel Reeves, because it's holier than thou, she can change her mind, she can flip-flop, she can even contradict what she said yesterday, and it doesn't seem to matter, and Starmer will be fine with that.
Because this is it, Linda. Well, listen, I have great sympathy for politicians on most cases because they are human beings. However, and I think this is where the British public get angry, it's that hypocrisy, it's that you guys are meant to be better than great, holier than thou, as we say. They haven't been. This letter is very contradictory to the one she said the other day. Not many people are talking about it. We're all thinking she must be breathing a sigh of relief, going, it's all settled. The Prime Minister, who is a lawyer by trade, should have looked at the discrepancy and gone, hang on a second, didn't you say this?
But you absolutely know there's a problem when you go into the nitty-gritty of all these words and all these emails. If it was a straightforward, honest situation, it wouldn't play out that way. You wouldn't forensically go through all these things the way we've been going on. The fact of the matter, it's a very simple solution. She wanted to rent her house out. Many of us have done that from time to time. Therefore, you talk to the estate agent, you talk to the local authority, you find out what documentation is necessary, you implement what you have to do, and that's it, game over. I think they
panicked. I think what happened is that they panicked because, if you remember, it was all about what advice that Angela Rayner had been given, and the advice Angela Rayner had been given, then what it was, the accountancy firm, the estate agent. I think they were actually an estate agent, but they were trying to claim they were an accountancy firm. The conveyancing factory, they didn't ride to the rescue in quite the same way. I mean, I think it's embarrassing. I think she'll survive. I think clearly the contradiction is not a good look, but the clear advice from the estate agent.
But I think Alex is right that she will survive, but not for very long, because she has to carry the can for this budget. That's the truth.
This is it, Alex. Because she's the last line of defence. Once the Chancellor goes, we all know you're next, and the Prime Minister cannot afford to lose his Chancellor. Is this the reason why she's not being...
Well, he can't afford to lose her yet. Exactly, it's the budget. And we all know the budget's going to be bad. He needs a get-out-of-jail-free card after the budget, and if he doesn't get one, he's gone. So, who is that? The full person is Rachel Reeves. I mean, don't get me wrong, she is not innocent of this, and quite the opposite. Her incompetence with the economy and incompetence with her own personal finances, it seems, is ruining everything. But Starmer clearly wants to wait till after the budget to get rid of her, and then maybe start afresh.
Yeah, well, I wonder if this is going to be in some of the newspapers tomorrow. I really hope it is. I mean, if the...
It'll be a box at the top now.
Listen, it might not be a headline.
I think they'll get sidetracked.
I have a feeling there might be someone else more important we talk about, but however, I really do hope we can talk about this because I think there's a lot more to dig into that. I did have this whole thing, this whole investigation I'd done into this, but we'll save it for another day if we don't talk about it tonight, all right? Well, coming up, though, I'll have all of those front pages for you tomorrow, and they make very grim reading for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor And, I've just found out, and the Chancellor. Oh, trouble. Oh, and what's Prince Harry doing here?
Most American sentence I could think of. I ordered breadsticks with ranch dressing at Applebee's.
I don't know how much more the man wants to embarrass himself, but you will see the full clip, and it's worse than you think.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are looking to escape the very mixed weather across the UK, well, it's going to also be mixed across much of the Mediterranean. Not everywhere. We are going to see some fine weather on Friday through parts of Greece, particularly the Greek islands. But we've got this area of low pressure bringing some heavy rain to southern Italy, showers to northern Italy as well. Mostly fine to eastern Spain for now, but some wet and windy conditions across Portugal, and they spread east, albeit slowly, through the weekend and early next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, it's going to be another blustery day, some quite heavy showers at times. Some of these could bring some hail and thunder. And even into this evening, it's going to remain fairly unsettled, all thanks to low pressure situated out to the west, bringing in some quite blustery winds and also some heavy outbreaks of rain. This will clear Northern Ireland through the first part of the evening and eventually spread its way eastwards overnight. Though it does clear fairly quickly, so by the time we reach the morning, it should be mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, though it is going to be quite blustery still by the time we reach the morning, but that does also keep temperatures up. Most towns and cities around the low double digits. So a milder start as we head into tomorrow, but I'm afraid it's not going to remain completely dry. There will be thicker areas of clouds starting to push up from the south, moving into the southeast. This will eventually bring in some showers. Some showery outbreaks already across western areas of Wales, also northwest England. These too could be quite heavy and blustery at times. A few more clearer skies across the far north of Scotland. And for all, it is set to be an unsettled end to the week. Some very heavy showers, in fact, eventually pushing into parts of Wales, parts of southwest England. These could bring some quite heavy and intense downpours at times, some hail and thunder, which could lead to a little bit of travel disruption. Also elsewhere, we can expect some heavy bands of showers too, possibly bringing some hail and thunder. And it's still going to be quite blustery, a chance we could see some coastal gales in some areas, but a milder day, so in any sheltered spots, feeling pleasant for the time of year, highs of 17 degrees. On Sunday, further showers. These too still could be quite heavy, particularly at times across northeastern areas of Scotland. Perhaps a little brighter by the afternoon across central and southern parts, still with a risk of showers, and it's still going to be quite blustery. And that remains the theme through Sunday and Monday, though from Monday onwards, things should start to feel that little bit milder.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Let's go through your front pages. They've just landed in my lap. Let's start with the Metro. Reeves, House Gaff, haunts Starmer. The Guardian, Andrew to be stripped of his royal titles and must move out of home. The Independent, Andrew humiliated as he stripped of royal prince title. The Eye, Andrew stripped of prince title in historic move to save monarchy. The Sun, the Andrew formerly known as Prince. The Star, the Royal formerly known as Prince. And that is what we've got so far. We'll bring you more. But I think Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, has dodged a tremendous, not even a bullet, it's a missile, because if this Andrew story hadn't broken tonight, she would be on the front page of almost all of these newspapers, in my opinion. But, you know, look, let's get to some conversation about this, shall we? So I'm joined by broadcaster and journalist Linda Jubilee, former Conservative MP Alex Stafford, former Labour advisor Matthew Larser. All right, shall we talk about Andrew just a little bit more, and then I do want to talk about Reeves a bit more as well. So, obviously, we'll start with The Guardian here. King decision means former Duke of York will no longer be a prince. Now, this is, of course, dominating the headlines tonight, but there's been so many questions asked. Has the royal family acted quick enough? Who is behind this decision? Did King Charles act decisively? Was this William putting pressure on? Linda, as in your time as a royal correspondent, of course, you would have had many interactions with the royal family. Have we ever seen such a tremendous scandal that has gone on for so long?
Well, no. I mean, I was a royal correspondent many years ago, so and it was in a much more structured time, if you like. It was before the paparazzi had really gotten to grip with Princess Diana, the bulk of the bad behaviour with Princess Diana. I cannot think of another time which has been another incident like this. This is this is a benchmark at time now. We're at a watershed moment. I really think that things will change now. But we shall see.
But I think this is as big as the death of Diana. This is a bigger moment because, of course, the family went through many modernisations following that. Of course, Tony Blair really led the way.
I think constitutionally and historically, this is of the same size. You could never really rival the death of Princess Diana because of the emotions it struck within people. It was such a... I was living in Hong Kong at the time, and even Hong Kong was just flattened with grief over that. So it's apples and pears, and not to use a sort of lightweight expression, but we can't compare the two things. But I think that this is a moment in history, literally a moment in history. The problem is that this kind of thing with Prince Andrew, I gather, has gone on for a long time. And there are certain elements of his behaviour that go back even to the time when he was, I'm told, at Naval College. Now, that is decades away. And I think that the problem is, whilst recently the comms department at the palace has kind of got on top of it all, for a very long time they kept it under wraps, kicked it into the long grass, and that's a problem.
And I think in terms of what it does give people is a moment of reflection, which is, what if the order of the children that the Queen had just been different? You know, he would be king, because obviously we don't get a choice. Now, you know, the King, I think even those who are not fans of the royal family think the King's doing a perfectly reasonable job, and obviously there was huge admiration for the late Queen. But, you know, we don't know what's a-coming because we don't get a choice. And that is the fundamental question that those people who don't think we should have a royal family
think. It's not a choice. I think this is what we are seeing is the professionalisation of the monarchy. No longer can you have, frankly, members of the royal family who aren't doing anything, aren't contributing. I think it's a clear message from Charles, from William, saying, actually, if you're going to be part of the family, you have to actually do the job. And the reason why I think he's got rid of the Royal Lodge is because he's not doing the job. They can't justify that. They have to justify their existence more and more and more. And I think this is what is happening. Saying every person who wants to be part of this family, this special place, has to be worked, has to be respected in the public mind, and has to be almost like a job interview, or like as a job where you're not performing, you're out.
Can I ask you, Alex, because the Public Accounts Committee, which look into a whole range of different finances, they started somewhat of at least a briefing on that they were going to look into Andrew's dealings on the lodge, why he hadn't paid a penny on this lease. Now, if I'm a member of the royal household or a comms person, I'm looking at a debate in the House of Commons, I'm looking at committees scrutinising the royal family's spending. This could have opened, had the King not acted, could have opened the biggest can of worms.
Oh, absolutely. This is an absolute disaster for the royal family. The last thing you want is politicians talking about the merits or demerits of the royal family on the floor of the House of Commons. It opens them up to absolutely everything, undermines, I think, the special privileged position of the royal family, and frankly, would not be good for the concept of a constitutional monarchy. And I think it's very dangerous.
Actually, one thing that puzzles me, and it touches upon what Matthew was saying, is there was a lot of speculation in the newspapers on Sunday about Andrew being the Queen's favourite son, and in a way that meant that she gave him a lot of slack, and she spoilt him. That's been the talk for many years, but it's left a huge problem behind for Prince Charles.
Absolutely.
You know.
Can I talk about another problem that might be arising for our future king, King William, when he does ascend to the throne? Because during an appearance on Hassan Minhaj's podcast, Prince Harry attempts to do an American accent, among other things. Take a look.
Most American sentence I could think of. I ordered breadsticks with ranch dressing at Applebee's.
Say it again.
The ranch. You got to hit the, and then on Applebee's, really emphasize the A. Applebee's.
A. Applebee's.
I love Applebee's.
I love Applebee's. Now I'm just sitting here sweating.
I ordered breadsticks with ranch dressing.
I ordered breadsticks with ranch dressing at Applebee's.
It's just cringe to watch. At least we know he hasn't got his uncle's unfortunate non-sweating ability.
Indeed.
So there we have it. I just think he's just.
From the sublime to the ridiculous.
If you're Prince William, right, you're looking at this stuff and you're going, this is not a man I want running around with the title of Prince. He's acting like an American celebrity, Linda.
Yeah, I don't.
Quite a low-grade American celebrity. Sorry,
if he was a talented mimic, you know, could get the accent right, that would be a different matter, but he can't.
Yeah.
It's so astonishing the way they've holed up in Montecito and they're trying to kind of rebuild this career. But the fact of the matter is, almost everything they do is based on the fact that he was once a working member of the royal family. There is nothing else about what they do. I mean, she did have a reasonable career as an actress, and she is a self-made millionaire. But from the time she married into the family and they left, it's all about being connected to the royal family.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, we've got loads more to talk about that. Coming up, though, there's some breaking news on the front page of The Telegraph. This is another story I wanted to bring you tonight that, of course, has been, you know, Prince Andrew stole my show. Guards and students will be allowed to bring their families to the UK after the Home Office reversed its previous decision. This is another screeching U-turn from Labour. I'll reveal all shortly.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
She's got a huge platform, so it really is wonderful that she's raised this issue.
Sandy, do you have any tips for parents who want to, you know, keep screens out of the home? I find myself, as a parent, I'll be sort of Googling whether my son's development is right or whatever, or, you know, Googling something about my son, and then I'll see that he's trying to play with me and I've been distracted by my phone. But I sort of have the best intentions, but I'm sure that's what everyone says. Do you have any tips for how to make phones and family more compatible?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly for very young children, they don't really have a good concept of time. So to say to them, you know, you can have the device for 20 minutes means nothing. So what I recommend to families that I work with is that they have screen-free places in the home where no one has a screen, and there are particularly important ones. So meal times, which the Princess of Wales raised yesterday, that's hugely important. It's a great time for the family to get together and talk. And also children being on screens during meal times has been shown to contribute to childhood obesity, because children don't register when they're full and they don't stop eating because they're distracted. The other really good place to avoid screens for everyone is the bedroom, particularly the children's bedroom, because it affects the quality of their sleep, how long they sleep. And first thing in the morning is particularly bad. It's been shown that children who watch screens in the morning have worse behaviour, attention and concentration throughout the day. And they're far more likely to have a speech and language problem.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I've got some more front pages here for you. Let's start with the Daily Mail. Humiliation for Reeves as she changes her story. Well, they, of course, have got a big spread there on Andrew at the top. But, yes, the only paper so far to have got that change in story. Interesting, of course, we will be talking about it. The Times, Andrew stripped of his Prince title and home. The Telegraph, Andrew no longer Prince. And at the bottom of the Telegraph here, we've got a few minutes, so I just want to talk about this because on the very bottom, we'll stay with this, Gazan students can bring their families to the UK, Matthew. This is a U-turn by the Labour government, the Home Office. Now, they've also said that other students won't be allowed to bring their families here anyway, so that's staying, I believe. So is this two-tier? Is this two-tier?
I think it is. It is two-tier. If you actually look into the detail, but I think the government would say it's justified because obviously his families in Gaza are in a rather different situation from people who are coming from, any other random country around the world, from China, which is where.
What about Sudan? If they came from Sudan?
Yeah, I mean that's a valid question. It is. I mean, one of the conditions is they have to be able to support themselves financially. Presumably, the students, a lot of them are on not necessarily government, but maybe charity scholarships and things.
Evening scholarships.
Yes,
are paid.
I'm not quite sure how many of them are actually going to be able to support their family. So I suspect that in the end, not many will come.
Yeah, well, I mean, are we actually surprised that this is a so-called U-turn, or was this always the plan going ahead and just suddenly they just have announced it? I'm not surprised at all. As soon as this scheme was announced, I always thought we open up for more and more people.
Yeah. I think this particular scheme can only open up for a certain number of people. Yeah. And I have to give Kelvin Mackenzie a shout-out now because I thought that he had a very fair humanitarian point to make earlier when he said that scholars like the Chevening scholars who come over, they are midlife career people. They've got very young children, and some allowance should be made for those people because, for example, just the Chevening Scholarship was set up by the Foreign Office so that foreign students could come here and then go back, and then we could form better relationships with them as we operated our foreign policy. And right now, in this day and age, in this era, that's quite an important point.
Yeah, but they don't go back. That's the problem.
But they do.
Yeah, well, I'll put my money on it. I will put my money on it, Alex.
Chevening scholars often go back.
I don't think these Gaza students are going anywhere. I think they're going to stay here in...
But they need to have a country to go back to.
I just think the whole thing's a mess. I think this once again undermines Labour's immigration policy or what they talk about immigration. They talk one thing, they talk a tough talk, but when it comes to reality and, frankly, numbers... it's a complete disaster.
Yeah, Matthew, should we be making exceptions? I know there's war-torn countries all over the world, but is this just trying to play to a core vote? I mean, there's seats that Labour will lose if they don't get the Gaza independent vote.
Yeah, I actually don't think this is, because I don't think this is a big enough thing that it would swing that many votes. I suspect there's been a bit of pressure from Labour.
Yeah, they are small.
But they all add up. It all adds up.
Yeah. Well, Alex, that's ridiculous.
75.
Very small numbers add up to a slightly bigger number.
Yes.
We are not talking about thousands of people coming in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Or very large.
It's not like changing the rules for everybody on family reunion.
I have heard this all before, and I know
you're a cynic.
The audience at home are going to be screaming. Don't be so
Mm.
naive, because I know this government would love to bring in a boatload of Gazans because they'll be able to parade around their constituencies going, I got these people here.
Alex, you cynic. You cynic. I think what the government would like is the Gaza situation to be sorted out, A, because it's good for the world, but B, it would also be good for the Labour Party.
I know.
But that's the whole situation, not a small move like this.
Well, I think there's... I don't know about that. I don't know. Anyway, listen, don't go anywhere. I have loads more news to give you. We're going to talk more about that Gaza story because I can see you all at home seething over this. I was seething. I had a whole big story to talk to you about this tonight. I had a lot to say, so we will dig into it. NHS fears worst flu epidemic in a decade. God, does the bad news ever end? Is Rachel Rachel Reeves going to be forced out? I mean, there's only one headline, of course, that it isn't really about Andrew, and that is about Rachel Reeves. That is not good news for her, because it should all be Andrew tonight, shouldn't it? Don't go anywhere. We'll be digging into all of the other stories and this big breaking story about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. See you in a moment.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, it's going to be another blustery day, some quite heavy showers at times. Some of these could bring some hail and thunder. And even into this evening, it's going to remain fairly unsettled, all thanks to low pressure situated out to the west, bringing in some quite blustery winds and also some heavy outbreaks of rain. This will clear Northern Ireland through the first part of the evening and eventually spread its way eastwards overnight. Though it does clear fairly quickly, so by the time we reach the morning, it should be mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, though it is going to be quite blustery still by the time we reach the morning, but that does also keep temperatures up most towns and cities around the low double digits. So a milder start as we head into tomorrow, but I'm afraid it's not going to remain completely dry. There will be thicker areas of clouds starting to push up from the south, moving into the southeast. This will eventually bring in some showers. Some showery outbreaks already across western areas of Wales, also northwest England. These too could be quite heavy and blustery at times. A few more clearer skies across the far north of Scotland. And for all, it is set to be an unsettled end to the week. Some very heavy showers, in fact, eventually pushing into parts of Wales, parts of southwest England. These could bring some quite heavy and intense downpours at times, some hail and thunder, which could lead to a little bit of travel disruption. Also elsewhere, we can expect some heavy bands of showers too, possibly bringing some hail and thunder. And it's still going to be quite blustery, a chance we could see some coastal gales in some areas, but a milder day, so in any sheltered spots, feeling pleasant for the time of year, highs of 17 degrees. On Sunday, further showers. These too still could be quite heavy, particularly at times across northeastern areas of Scotland.